is spiritual and personal. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the Vaikuntha planets, the land, trees, fruits, and flowers, and cows, everything is completely spiritual. Trees are desired. This material planet is spiritual, produce fruits and flowers according to the order of material energy. But in the Vaikuntha planet, trees, the land, the residents, and the animals are all. There's no difference between the tree and the animal. So everything has a particular form. The trees and the men have form because all of them, although differently formed, are spiritual. There's no difference between them. That's very important information. There's nowhere else that you can get this information about what's going on in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. And there's no way that the materialists can have access to this. They would have to become devotees to even be interested in this information. So here we have a transcendental book, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's explaining the what's going on in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and spiritual planets, and therefore giving us an idea of what it means to have a transcendental life and transcendental experiences. So this is something you can't get anywhere else. No other scripture in the world is giving this information. Therefore, we have to understand the importance of knowing this, because if we don't know this, then we don't aim or organize our life to go back to Godhead. And we think that just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending this planet is the purpose of life. And we make up false narratives like when you die, there's nothing. These are all bogus ideas. They're not true. The soul is eternal. And theoretically, not theoretically, and we never really die. We just change our bodies in the material world. In the spiritual world, we get an eternal body. And everything in the spiritual world is eternal. It says that the Vaikuntha planets are spiritual and personal. Very important statement. This debunks the Mayavadis that think that the impersonalism is the highest state of reality. So the purport, let's read that again, verse 16. In the Vaikuntha planets, the land, the trees, the fruits and flowers, and the cows, everything is completely spiritual and personal. The trees are desire trees. On this material planet, the trees can produce fruits and flowers according to the order of material energy. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the trees, the land, the residents, and the animals are all spiritual. There is no difference between the tree and the animal, or the animal and the man. Here, the word murtimat indicates that everything has a spiritual form. Formlessness, as conceived by the impersonalists, is refuted in this verse. In the Vaikuntha planets, although everything is spiritual, everything has a particular form. the trees and the men are formed. And because all of them, although differently formed, are spiritual, there's no difference between them. Yeah, because they're all eternal. That's why there's no difference between them. Okay, text number 17. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all auspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. Report by Srila Prabhupada. It appears from this verse that the Vaikuntha planets are full of all opulence. There are airplanes in which the inhabitants travel in the spiritual sky with their sweethearts. There is a breeze carrying the fragrance of blossoming flowers, and this breeze is so nice that it also carries the honey flowers. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha, however, are so interested in glorifying the Lord that they do not like the disturbance of such a nice breeze while they are chanting the Lord's glories. In other words, they are pure devotees. They consider glorification of the Lord more important than their own sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha place, there is no question of sense gratification. To smell the fragrance of a blossoming flower is certainly very nice, but it is simply for sense gratification. Have the inhabitants of Vaikuntha give preference to the service of the Lord, not their own sense gratification. Serving the Lord in transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that, in comparison, sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Well, you read the Bible, you don't get any information like this. Or the Quran, you don't get any information like that. And any other scripture also. It's only in Srimad Bhagavatam that you can get this information. And this is very special information. It's about what's happening in the spiritual world. And a lot of detailed information is given about the spiritual world and people living on the spiritual planet. And this gives us an idea of what we should aim for in our life. What we see on the earth is usually much, much more gross and temporary and not transcendental at all. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. In other words, the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are fully focused on Krishna. And to find people in this in the material world fully focused on Krishna is very rare. Very rare. Okay. So let me read this one more time. It appears from this verse that the Vaikuntha planets are full of all opulence. There are airplanes in which the inhabitants travel in the spiritual sky with their sweethearts. There is a breeze carrying the fragrance of the blossoming flowers. And this breeze is so nice that it also carries the honey of the flowers. Have you ever just imagined that? There's a breeze that's very pleasant, and it's carrying also the honey. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha, however, are so interested in glorifying the Lord that they do not like the disturbance of such a nice breeze while they are chanting the Lord's glories. In other words, they're pure devotees. They consider glorification of the Lord more important than their own sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is no question of sense gratification. To smell the fragrance of a blossoming flower is certainly very nice, but it is simply for sense gratification. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha give first preference to the service of the Lord, not their own sense gratification. Oh, that's how they got to Vaikuntha in the first place. They were more interested in serving the Lord than serving themselves. Serving the Lord in transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that, in comparison, sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Sense gratification basically is not really so great. It's nothing like the transcendental emotions and experiences that you get in engaging in devotional service for the Lord in the company of other nice devotees. And there are nice festivals and nice prasadam and chanting and dancing. This is the real life of a devotee. If you look at the life of the materialistic people, they have to go to work every day, to eat horrible things, they're in anxiety, losing their job. So many things that are not pleasant. Whereas the devotees, everything is pleasant. Everything is pleasant because they're always glorifying Krishna and associating with other devotees that glorifying Krishna. It's prasadam, it's clothing, all around them, it's transcendental experiences like the fragrance of the flowers and so forth. So we don't actually live on a high level. We're very low level of life. So the text number 18 said that when the king of bees hums in high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridges, and the peacock. These are all birds. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. So that's when the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord. Imagine it. The bees are singing the glories of the Lord in a high pitch. And the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock stops. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Okay. And in the purport it says, this verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. Okay, absolute. You have to understand what that means. Now it's going to explain. There's no difference between the birds there and the human residents. Whoa. There's a big difference in this planet between the birds and the human beings. But in the Vaikuntha planets, there's no difference between the birds and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Now, in Mayavadis, they claim everything is one. There's no variety. And therefore, it's very boring to be a Mayavadi. Very, very. And eventually, they will become devotees. But it takes a long time. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. Everything's moving all the time. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. And just imagine that. You go to some place where everything and everyone is Krishna conscious. It's amazing. That's real, heaven, or Vaikuntha. And it says, the situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate, meaning everything is moving. There is nothing inanimate. Inanimate means things that don't move. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. That means they're all chanting Hare Krishna and glorifying the Lord. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In other words, everything everyone is doing, including the birds, the bees, and the human beings, etc., is to please Krishna. Special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In the material world, even an ass, meaning a donkey, enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikunthas, or Vaikuntha Lokas, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration and voice of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service beginning with hearing and chanting are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. Well, we have to make we have to have a discerning quality about what we hear and what we see, eat, everything, but especially what we hear. Because you don't really understand things as by seeing as you do by hearing. Because when you see things, it can fool you. When you hear things, you have a better chance of understanding what they are. Like, for example, when there's a fool or a nonsense person, if they dress nicely and smile but don't say anything, it would take you a little bit longer to figure out they're a fool. But as soon as they speak and act, you can tell this is a fool, this is nonsense. And you see that, especially, amongst teenagers. There are a lot of teenagers that are absolute fools, nonsense. They do nonsense things. Like, for example, I want you to get this out now. You know what happens when you eat a slug? Look it up. There's a picture of a person that was a teenager that ate a slug because he was challenged by his friends. Why don't you eat that slug? He said, okay, I will. Ate the slug, and you can see the picture of his face. Boy eats slug. Got it? Is it there?
But there's no picture, but
No, it's got to be a picture. The picture of a boy who ate a slug. Now we see the slugs all the time on the ground. So his friends told him, well, we dare you to eat a slug. And he said, okay.
So here
it is. The picture's there.
Yeah.
Of the slug. Let's everybody look at it. I want you to know what it means to be a real idiot. Just because
conversation came up.
Whenever young kids are together, sometimes it's dangerous because they don't have experience of life so much, and sometimes there's the other kids will say, "Oh, why don't you eat that slug?" Someone says, "No, I don't want to eat it." They say, oh, see, you're a chicken. Thus the person eats the slug,
That's
and
it.
look what happens. You see him? You see his
He,
face?
yeah, he used to be like this.
Yeah, he became like a vegetable, you know.
It says this man died after 8 years.
Yeah, he also died very quickly after eating the slug.
Man dies 8 years
So
after
if,
being.
if some kids say, "Oh, why don't you eat that slug?" You'd be cool. Don't do it. That's what happens when these young kids get together. You know, sometimes they make these challenges. And so, why don't you eat that slug? And so I said, okay, I'll eat this slug. And you eat it and it ruins your whole life. That's what happened to that boy. It ruined his whole life and he died. You got to be really careful in this world. You see a picture of this, the guy that ate the slug?
Yes.
He was a rugby player.
A what? No.
Rugby player. He was pretty.
I played at school because some kids taught me how to play. It's a very rough sport.
Well, that's a good sport.
What do you think of it?
Like this situation, like how.
Yeah. Ruined his whole life. He was, you know, he's a daredevil, right? They dared him. We dare you to eat a slug. He said, well, I'll do it. No. What? Truth.
Yeah, so
We-
we have that to their kids. Play with games at school.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Truth
There
or
you go.
dare?
So they go truth or dare, and I have to. I don't want to do dare because it's probably something bad. But I have to always do truth, and they just say something like that's good, and then I just say yeah, sure. So I just want to get out of the situation.
They could do that. Hope they don't dare you to eat a slug.
I can pick
Yeah.
the person who got roasted.
Do you see the picture of the boy that ate the slug?
I'm trying to see the scene where like what happened.
Now, what happened? He died.
I know about like when it take place where okay. Scene where
Okay, so these are real life experiences. Now, you don't have to eat a slug to know what happens to you, right? But there are examples. So this one boy, unfortunately, very unfortunate for him, he was dared to eat a slug, and he ate it. And look what it did. It ruined his whole life, and he died. Became like a vegetable. Couldn't function anymore. And then he died. And there are plenty of slugs right now. I see them all the time when I go on the walk. But don't ever pick it up and eat it. So can you imagine eating a slug? Slug is like mucus, you know. It's like stool. So, horrible.
Oh, how a small slug can be so dangerous. Like,
And poisonous.
poison.
Yeah. It's good to learn these things so you don't get fooled by a bunch of fools. Right. Okay. Yeah, all these kids, when they get together, I dare you to do this. I did. So then you think, oh, if I want to be one of the guys in the gang, I got to eat the slug. They do things like that. Some of the dumbest people are in college where you join a fraternity. Don't ever join a fraternity in college. Big mistake. All they do is nonsense. And their, the initiation, they use the word initiation, their initiation of a new person into their fraternity is horrible. And sometimes kids die, because the other kids are mean, it makes them suffer like so much that they die. And that's, you go to school to get an education, but then you want to join a fraternity. That's a big mistake right there. Don't do it. Because most of the kids in the fraternity are demons. They they just torture them, and the new ones that come in, they torture them as an initiation. Look that up. Initiation ceremony for new members of fraternity. Sometimes the kids die or killed by the terrible experience of initiated into the fraternity. Fraternity means, a group of people that have sort of the same values or the same, yes, go ahead.
I see some pictures of some kind of sports or something like that, but these are kind of images.
People in a fraternity?
Yeah, that's what I searched.
Oh, let me take a look. Let's see.
That's it.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
Like is the letter organizations. These organizations, known as fraternities for boys and sororities for girls, are closed social clubs that allow students to fully engage in social activities while enjoying being taught certain character building values and systems. In fact, some people even believe that being part of a fraternity or a sorority is essential in becoming a model student. However, in order to be a part of this, the student must undergo a fraternity initiation. The fraternity initiation tests a person's dedication to be part of the fraternity, not to mention teach them values like humility and brotherhood. Unfortunately, some fraternities become violent and will often cross the line in their initiation rituals.
More than some fraternities, most of them. Yeah, and sometimes the kids die going through the initiation because it's not an initiation, it's torture. Yeah, see, that's psychological torture or violence, physical violence. Okay, that's enough for about fraternities. Okay, so here we see in this verse 18, when the king of bees comes in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, and the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. So, in the spiritual world, see, now we're getting a glimpse of the spiritual world where everyone is a devotee, including all the animals and the birds and so forth. Everything, the ground, the trees, everything is animated with love for Krishna. Purport. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. There's no difference between the birds there and the human residents. That means, the birds can talk, they can sing, and they glorify the Lord just like a human being does. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. There's nothing inanimate. Animate means everyone is moving, everyone is doing things. And those things are all based on serving Krishna. There is nothing inanimate. There's no lazy people. There's no people, just sleeping all the time and being lazy. Everyone is animate because they're engaged in ecstatic activities of glorifying the Lord and serving the Lord. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. Just imagine that. To be in a place where everyone and everything is Krishna conscious, including the trees and the ground also. The plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In the material world, even an ass, meaning a donkey, enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikunthas, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, and the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. Well, that's the life of a devotee. It's hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord every day, as we're doing. We're hearing about Vaikuntha, we're hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord every day. Text 19. Although flowering plants like the mandara, kunda, purabaka, utpala, champaka, arna, punaga, naga, gishara, bakula, lily, and parijata are full of transcendental fragrance. They are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, for Tulasi is given a special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with tulsi leaves. Interesting. And purport by Srila Prabhupada. The importance of tulsi leaves is very clearly mentioned here. Tulsi plants and their leaves are very important in devotional service. Devotees are recommended to water the tulsi tree every day and collect the leaves to worship the Lord. One time, an atheistic Swami remarked, "What is the use of watering the tulsi plant? It is better to water eggplant." That was, what's his name? That was, I'll think of it in a minute. By watering the eggplant, one can get some fruits, but what is the use of watering the tulsi? These foolish creatures, unacquainted with devotional service, sometimes play havoc with the education of people in general. In other words, they mislead people. So this was a disciple yeah. Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. The most important thing about the spiritual world is that there is no envy among the devotees there. This is true even among the flowers, which are all conscious of the greatness of Tulsi. In the Vaikuntha world, entered by the four Kumaras, even the birds and flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. So this is something we have to understand and memorize, or keep in our mind. The most important thing about the spiritual world is there is no envy among the devotees there. Whoa. Envy, what does that mean? Well, you can look it up in the dictionary, the word envy, E-N-V-Y. It means that you're jealous, but it's not just being jealous. Jealous means someone else has something you don't have, and you are not happy that they have it, and you want it also. So when you get it, then your dissatisfaction sort of goes away. But then there's something called envy. Envy means somebody else has something you don't have. You're not happy about that. But when you're envious, even if you get what they have, you're not satisfied until they lose it also. So that's envy. It's like worse than jealousy. Jealousy, sometimes you get what the other person has, your jealousy subsides. But when you're envious, even if you get the same thing or even more, still you're not satisfied until they lose everything. So the envious people are very dangerous. Just like Ravana, he was envious. So he stole or kidnapped Sita. So that Rama wouldn't have Sita. And he thought that Rama's power was coming from having such a beautiful wife like Sita. So he thought, let me kidnap Sita. Not only I will, enjoy Sita, but Rama will be destroyed because all his strength is coming from the fact that he has such a nice wife. Of course, that was wrong. So we have to be careful that so there's a difference between jealousy and envy. Sometimes people mix it up once you look up the definition. Jealousy, one, and then envy. Jealousy is when somebody has something you don't have, and you're not happy that they have it. You're jealous, and you want to have it also. But envy is even if you get what the other person has, you're not satisfied until they lose it. What's it say? Jealousy.
Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess the same advantage.
And that's what envy or jealousy. Say it again.
Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess the same advantage. Sounds like jealousy.
That's jealousy.
No, envy.
Envy. Yeah. But
So here,
actually, you're not satisfied until the other person loses. Go ahead. What's this?
what's the difference between envy and jealousy? Although many people consider envy and jealousy synonymous, they actually have distinct meanings. Envy is the painful feeling of wanting what someone else has, like attributes or possessions. If you're jealous, you feel threatened, protective, or fearful of losing one's position or situation to someone else. So, interesting. So, envy is like wanting what others have, jealous is
It show.
There's one picture like two girls and one girl has a doll and it says, and the other girl doesn't have a doll is thinking, I want your thing. And then it's under the envy, and that's called envy. And it takes two people to create an envy scene. And jealousy is I don't want to lose my thing. For example, like if there's a boyfriend and a girlfriend and there's like girl walking by, the girl thinks I don't want to lose my thing. Like she wants she thinks that the other girl that's walking by is better than her, so jealousy takes at least three people. No, two. Just the example that's going to show.
Well, okay, there's jealousy and envy. When you're jealous of someone, it's because they have something you don't have, and you want to have it. So when you get it, usually your jealousy subsides. Envy is okay. Still, you have somebody has something you don't have. You want to have it too. If you get it, you're still not satisfied until that other person loses with it. You're envious of that other person. You completely bereft of any advantages. What does it say? Yeah.
They are giving this definition of what we just explained.
No. So what did it say that envy is?
So envy, feeling discontent, feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or love.
And then what is jealousy?
what is jealousy?
feeling of showing envy of someone or their achievements and advantages. Fiercely protective or of one's rights or positions.
Jealousy.
Mm.
So I think it's you already have something. In case of jealousy, you already have something, but somebody is, you know, let's say in this case, the example they give is you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and then somebody else is flirting with them, then the feeling of, that I might lose and I don't want to lose. So that's the jealousy feeling.
Really?
That's what they're saying. So
Okay.
jealousy describes a feeling of protectiveness or insecurity you have over a rivalry or being replaced. This typically happens in a significant relationship and requires three people. For example, if someone flirts with your boy or girlfriend, it produces jealousy. You feel resentful, hurt, and angry that a person is flirting with someone you love. You might even start to worry that the person can or will replace you.
Okay.
So that's the jealousy. Envy is often confused with jealousy. However, where jealousy takes three parties to happen, envy takes only two. Envy is internal longing you feel for something someone else has. So you could be envious of anything from a personality trait to a possession. For example, Buddy Pine was envious of the Incredibles superpowers in the movie Incredibles. That's an example. So basically, like in case of envy, you see something somebody has, and then you are like, absolutely, I want it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's the envy. And I mean, obviously, if it is a position that others have that only one person can have, then you might be to the point of stealing it from them or destroying them from
Can you
having.
look up the Encyclopedia Britannica? Encyclopedia Britannica, and then in there, look at the definition, the difference between jealousy and envy. Encyclopedia.
Is more than simple jealousy because it includes the belief that another's excellence or blessings less than one's own and it makes one want to destroy the other.
There you go. You see?
It says that envy is a deadly sin.
Yeah.
In Roman Catholic theology, one of the seven deadly sins.
Personal beliefs that they have.
To happiness and can manifest as material envy and spiritual envy. Material envy is resentment towards others who have more material fortune, such as money, talent, strength, your food. Spiritual envy is resentment towards others, spiritual goodness, or those who have progress in healing. Spiritual envy is more evil than material envy and is considered to be a sin against the Holy Spirit.
Against what?
Holy Spirit.
Against God.
Hmm.
You see how you have higher level dictionaries. The Encyclopedia Britannica is more, high level.
Teacher put Britannica on our on all of our computers in class. So if we need to do research or for like science topic or something, if we have to write like for example, if we have to write something about like an animal, we would go over Britannica and research about that animal.
Yeah, because the Encyclopedia Britannica is much more, let's say, has more information And the information also is higher quality than a small dictionary. So you get it, and it gives you examples also how that word is used. A lot of examples.
And also there's a different Britannica and it's also for like reading. You could search up the topic and read all about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there are two types of Britannicas, the encyclopedia, I think, is one type. The other type I think is for reading articles and stuff like that.
Okay. Hardy Ball. Good. Okay, so when the king of bees hums in high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, and the crane, the
I
chakravaka.
think we're on the next verse, Mark.
I'm going to
Oh, okay,
read
okay.
this again. The swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Haribol. Now we see that this is special knowledge here. It's spiritual knowledge. It's much better than just material knowledge. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. So we're getting knowledge about what happens in Vaikuntha, the place where there's no anxiety. Vaikuntha means a place where there's no anxiety because everyone is Krishna conscious. There's no difference between the birds there and the human residents. Well, there's a big difference here on the earth between the humans and birds, but in Vaikuntha, there isn't. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. Just imagine everything is Krishna. Amazing. That's Vaikuntha. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. That means everyone's engaging and serving Krishna. In the material world, even an ass, meaning a donkey, rejoices sound vibration. Makes a funny, goofy sound. But in the Vaikuntha, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, and the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principle of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. So in Vaikuntha, if you go there, all the time, all kinds of living entities are glorifying the Lord, especially the bees. Everyone glorifying the Lord with choice poetry and transcendental verses. Okay, so text 19. Although flowering plants like the Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpala, Champaka, Arna, Punaga, Nagakeshara, Bakula, Lily, and Parijata are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, where Tulasi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Okay. So Tulsi is very special amongst all the flowers. The importance to purport, the importance of Tulsi leaves is very clearly mentioned here. Tulsi plants and their leaves are very important in devotional service. Devotees are recommended to water the Tulsi tree every day and collect the leaves to worship the Lord. One time, an atheistic Swami, okay, so this is Swami Vivekananda who did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said, forget about Tulsi, just eat eggplant. When you eat eggplant, you get stronger, right? You don't get stronger by eating Tulsi. He's complete nonsense. So you collect Tulsi leaves every day to worship the Lord. One time, an atheistic swami, that's Vivekananda, remarked, "What is the use of watering the tulsi plant? It's better to water eggplant." See how crazy these people and envious. They're very envious, you know. By watering the eggplant, one can get some fruits, but what is the use of watering the tulsi? These foolish creatures, unacquainted with devotions, sometimes play havoc with the education of people in general. Yeah, Vivekananda was a very famous person. And they still worship him today in India, right? He's in all the books, you know, all the heroes of Hindu heroes. He's one of them. And most of those heroes are low-class people, like Vivekananda. Although he was very smart in many ways, but not in pure devotional service.
People follow him very like sincerely. Like,
Yeah, he went to Chicago and gave a big speech. You know.
here also some people I know they read about Vivekananda very regularly. They are very passionate about
Yeah,
his books.
but you see, he's a low-class person. Very sad, very sad. The most important thing about the spiritual world is that there is no envy among the devotees there. This is true even among the flowers, which are all conscious of the greatness of Tulas. In the Vaikuntha world, entered by the four Kumaras, even the birds and the flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. Just imagine what it's like to enter Vaikuntha, a whole different world. So you have these fairy tale stories about what's the name?
Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, Alice in Wonderland, exactly. So Alice in Wonderland, she enters into this Wonderland where you know everything is different than in the material world. And one thing about the Wonderland, everything's infinite there. So you know, obviously, you know, the person who wrote that story of Alice in Wonderland, he had some idea of what is the spiritual world, you know. But you know, Alice is not a pure devotee, nor is you know the Wonderland. But the thing about the Wonderland is that everything's like infinite. You know. So when everything is infinite, that's called the fourth dimension. There are three dimensions, right? There's three dimensions. You can measure it, you know, something that you can measure. The fourth dimension is infinite. You can't measure it. You know,
So when
length, width, and breadth.
second dimension is like a flat surface, kind of like a flat shape. Third dimension is is something you can hold, other than a shape, like a flat, something other than flat that you can hold. And I don't know what the first one is.
Length, width, and breadth. Breadth, length, width, and length, width, and breadth. Look that up. Okay. Yeah. The length, width, and breadth.
Yes.
Now the fourth dimension is infinite. Everything is infinite. Where the length, the width, the breadth all become infinite. So that's when you say Alice in Wonderland, when she goes into that Winterland, all of a sudden everything's infinite. You know, infinite amount of birds, infinite amount of everything. Okay.
Question on
Yeah.
Yes. Mataji, you want to ask the question? think you posted, the devotee who enters Vaikuntha planet after he leaves this material world might get an animal body but spiritual body. So could a human being end up in an animal body
in the spiritual
in the
world.
spiritual world? But in a spiritual,
Oh, it
and-
depends on what their consciousness is.
Liv-
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So depending upon consciousness, in the sense, consciousness would be always to serve Krishna, right? Like for a devotee. So, like in the spiritual planet, given because the description says you have bees, cuckoos, and peacocks, everything. So, for a devotee entering to Vaikuntha planet after leaving material world, would they get anything but the main goal and objective is to serve Krishna. So it doesn't matter if you have any animal's body, but it is a spiritual body anyway, and but it will be eternal as well, right?
Yes, and it says here, in the Vaikuntha world entered by the four Kumaras, even the birds and flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. So you might be a bird or you might be, a flower. But everything there is conscious of service to the Lord. There you go. So it's
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. And that's in this purport, the third canto, chapter 15, text 19.
So does that mean animals can also go back to Godhead?
Yeah. Well, animals. You can be an animal in the spiritual world. There are animals that have gone back to Godhead. For example, Lord Chaitanya, through there was this one dog that was following Shivananda, something like that, disciple of Lord Chaitanya. And when he went, anyway, he went to see Lord Chaitanya in anyway, he went to see Lord Chaitanya, and this dog followed. So he realized that it was a special dog. So he made sure that the dog was, being fed and like that. And he had to walk a long distance to get to, where Lord Chaitanya was. And then at one point, the dog disappeared and then reappeared again, very near Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya threw like banana peel to the dog. Obviously, he had touched it, right?
Hmm.
And the dog ate the banana peel and went back to God.
Hmm.
You want to look at it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Stephen understand, yes.
There's in the temple, there's like this stand where you can buy the books, right?
Yeah.
There's this graphic novel kind of say kind of not stand, but like there's a book and there's a story about Namai. When he was a kid, he was playing with his friends, Lord Namai, and so there were a group of dogs, and Namai and his friends were playing with the dogs. And Namai took one of the best looking dog home, and he was playing with the dog. And his mom told him to put the dog away, but he didn't listen. So when Namai wasn't there, when he was playing with his friends, his mom took the dog away. But after that, the dog started chanting, and then a lot of Vaishnavas came to see what was happening, and they saw that the dog was chanting Hare Krishna, and so the dog fainted after that and went back to God.
How do you go? See, even the dog can go back to God if they touch Lord Chaitanya. Okay. So we're on
Uh,
next time. I would finish, right?
yeah, that's time.
Okay, so thank you very much, my dear devotees. And the next class is tonight. Hare Krishna.
Very. Any other questions?
Yeah, one question, Maharaj.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Maharaj, why Brahma also came to material world, Maharaj? If he knows so much.
Why he came to the material world?
Yes, Maharaj.
Right. Okay, so yeah, Brahma is a special person, but before he could go back to Godhead, he engaged in devotional service. And he eventually earned the qualification, becoming completely pure to go back to Godhead. So he already to achieve the position of Brahma. Now, the position of Brahma is what you call a titular position. Look that word up, titular. It's a title. So there's not like one Brahma. There can be millions of Brahmas. And there are millions of Brahmas. And they attain that position by engaging in a lot of devotional service. But still, they haven't gone back to Godhead yet. But if they act properly in their position as Brahma, they get completely purified. Then they can go back to Godhead. They're very exalted devotees. What does it say?
Holding or constituting a purely formal position or title without any real authority.
Titular. Look at the second definition.
Denoting a person or thing from whom or which the name of an artistic work or similar is taken.
You have a third definition. Always use the Britannica dictionary. Okay.
Constituting a title knowledge.
Yeah, titular means constituting a title. So you can get the title of Brahma, and there are millions of Brahmas, not just one. But it's a title because you achieved a certain level of purification. And if the Brahma acts properly, you can go back to Godhead. Okay, then we'll stop right there. All voices.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna.
Oh, is this question answered?
Did you get your
Yes,
question?
yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Baba. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.